I really believe that God wants for His church to really change our minds about money. We have weird ways of thinking and what we believe. This hinders us. It might make you a little uncomfortable. And honestly, to me, that's my goal. I want us to grow in a wealth mindset. Most of our life is not what happens to us, but it's the decisions we make day by day. You can have a poverty mindset or a wealth mindset. I want us to grow in a godly relationship with money. Welcome to Wealth, Heaven's Perspective. This is now episode 5, so we only have 2 left. This one and then next week's episode. So we're getting close to the end. I personally had a lot of fun putting this stuff together and communicating what I've been finding, researching, learning, revelation, and all that. So this has been a lot of fun. Hopefully you have been impacted by it. Hopefully it's gotten you thinking. Maybe the Holy Spirit's been showing you stuff. It's been revealing things in your heart. And really just to go over it, what's the purpose of these things? I want to change your mind. Maybe you're already in this place where you think with a wealth mindset, and that's actually what we're going to talk about today. But we all, regardless of where you're at, with finances, with wealth and resources, and just the way God has designed things, we all can grow and increase in that, even with the beliefs that we have, because it's not always just black and white. Sometimes it's like the way we think and how we believe by degrees opens us up to more and more revelation, when we get revelation, into being able to walk in that. So appreciate you sticking with it and following along in all this. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So this is episode 5 and it's called Mindsets. So we've talked about it quite a bit in the previous episodes, mindsets, but I realized that I don't think I've gotten down in it to really explain and teach on mindsets, even into what is a poverty mindset and what is a wealth mindset. We have talked about them, but today I want to kind of dig into it a little more and really hopefully draw a clear picture of the difference between them and, shine a light on that. So that's what we're talking about today. So first, let's deal with what is a mindset. A mindset, you could say, and there's probably more to it than this, but if we could just boil it down to a pretty foundational understanding, a mindset is like a pattern of beliefs and thought patterns. So beliefs and thought patterns mixed together is your mindset. So we all have mindsets around everything, like family, like your belief system on family produces mindsets or thought patterns that you operate from. So, and to say this is most of our mindsets are involuntarily created. Just because, you're a kid, you grow up, whatever your home situation was, you learn through all of these situations. So you're at home when you're growing up, or, in school, and then at the different stages of life when you're introduced to new things, So when you're a kid, you're not thinking about a lot of stuff. And then as you hit teenager and then young adult, you start to see more things and think about deeper and more abstract concepts, and based on what you're exposed to, the example maybe by your parents or teachers and just different leaders in your life, and what you see or you're exposed to on a regular basis, those things develop what we are calling your mindsets. So your belief system, your thought patterns, all of that. So hopefully that made sense. So belief systems and your thought patterns, those kind of combine into the mindset that you operate out of. So to explain that a little more, you might have thoughts. So here's how I like to explain it. We can think all of the right things, but your beliefs, which are from your heart, really inform what you act out. So you might even know a lot of the right information. Like, let's just talk like the Bible. You might know a lot of the right things because you've been taught really well, which is great to be taught well. But if your belief in your heart does not line up with that, your belief is going to win. So you'll have thought patterns that aren't your conscious thoughts, like pulling up information, that are actually what you're living out of. The decisions you make, the life that you create, is based on your beliefs and those thought patterns that come from it. So it's not about knowing the right information, it's about knowing in your heart what you actually believe. So a practical example, and this is real simple. If you might know the right answer to this, like, does God love you? The right answer is, of course, yes. But if you don't believe that in your heart, for whatever reason, maybe it's like old wounds, like maybe you have deep-seated father wounds because of some serious trauma from your past, or whatever the case. And so you have these wounds that you've never healed, you've never processed through, gotten help in that way. Then you have you can have these beliefs that, because oftentimes, I don't want to go on too far of a rabbit trail here. Oftentimes what we experience in the natural, like say with your parents, your siblings, friends, and just life things that happen, we superimpose on the spiritual. And it's not something we choose to do often, but that's very often what happens. So in your heart, if you don't actually believe that God loves you, no matter how many times you hear it, without having that healing come in and have God reveal himself in that place and to receive healing, and have that turn around, then you're going to live your life in such a way that you don't actually believe God loves you. Very basic example, but it's something a lot of people deal with, actually. So, yeah. So that's kind of like the basic boiled down explanation, as simple as I can make it, at least right now, of what mindsets are. So that is what a mindset is. So to get into the two very specific polar opposites of mindsets in our case right now is the poverty mindset and the wealth. So they are very different. They don't look the same, they don't sound the same, and once you see it, you will easily recognize when you yourself are operating from the poverty or the wealth mindset. It will be glaringly and blaringly obvious, whether you see it in yourself, whether you hear it in the way someone else is talking. They look nothing alike. There's no way to confuse them. Yeah. So let's talk first about the poverty mindset, because I like to end with the good stuff. So let's start on the poverty side. Even if you get into the scripture, there's really no way to make a case that poverty is a spiritual good or even a natural good. Poverty is just evil. It's not good. It produces nothing good. There is nothing good about poverty. And, well, yeah, I'm not going to go down that road. So just at its core, there's nothing good about poverty. So just to draw that picture, there's no good way to spin poverty. And I've talked about this in a previous episode, but just to draw this picture, is poverty and poor are not the same thing. Poverty and poor are not the same thing. So what is a poverty mindset? What does it look like? Poverty mindset is almost inseparably linked with a victim mindset. So a victim mindset is very powerless. It comes from a very broken place, and it's a powerless thing. So it'll sound a lot like I can't do this, I can't do that. It'll sound, well, there's a lot of ways it can sound. If I start doing that kind of a list, we'll be here for a really long time. And I don't want to be here for that long. So it sounds like a lot of things, but basically it has the sound of being powerless. It'll look like this. If you have a poverty mindset, you can't see beyond yourself. You're usually I'm not going to say you. A powerless mindset is very hopeless. A poverty mindset thinks everything should be free, or at least very cheap. And, a lot of us, we like to find good deals and all that. And so there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But if your whole life is bent around spending as little money as possible because you're just trying to scrape by, then chances are you have a poverty mindset around money and potentially other things. So a poverty mindset is generally looking for cheap and free, for handouts, for something else to solve its problems. So if, this would be a maybe more, hopefully not too close, but potentially hit close to home example. A poverty mindset would have a powerless position and would blame, let's say you have a job. A poverty mindset would blame the employer and your paycheck for your situation, with the hope that if you just got another raise, it would solve all your issues. Now, there's a lot that could be said in that. There's more to those kinds of situations than I'm giving credit to right now. But at its core, this would be a poverty mindset. That you do nothing, you take a powerless and passive position with the hope that something else or someone else will solve your problem. And now this is not a commentary on the lottery. I'm not even going to go on that, but a poverty mindset would also, from that powerless position, constantly play for big money with the hopes that if you get that money, it will solve all your issues and make life easy. Poverty mindset really is stuck in a place of survival. So if you recognize that in any of your decisions, if you're making choices specifically around money and resources, from a place of fear, anxiety, and survival, and they're usually all linked, that's a poverty mindset. So a poverty mindset does not have a vision for the future. A poverty mindset is focused on surviving and just making it. And obviously, if you're in a place that's hard, you have to go for making it. You have to survive, especially if you have children and you're struggling in that way. You need to feed your children. You need to take care of what needs to be taken care of. So of course, some of those things always come into play. But the key mark is that you have a hopeless view, and a very passive and or victim approach to the decisions you make. And honestly, that can even show itself in the way we believe God for things. I know this might maybe throw you for a loop. I don't know. But oftentimes we take a position that we call faith, but is actually just a very passive and powerless approach to what we're believing God for. God actually has set everything up except for salvation, because that's the main thing that we could not do ourselves. So Jesus had to come take care of that, and all we have to do is say yes and give ourselves to him. But basically everything else, you could arguably say he is set up for a partnership between him and us. So if that's the case, then our just choosing to say the right things and hope God shows up. And I'm not talking about basic provision, because there are things where we can just trust that God will provide. And there you could find testimony after testimony. I have testimonies of provision, and it was nothing else except just believing that God was going to show up. So that's fine. But if we stay in that place and never actually partner with what he has created, then we are actually taking a poverty mindset approach. because we are just sitting on our butts waiting for God to show up and do something to change our situation instead of actively working out what he has given us the ability to do and trusting that he will show up with his part because we can't fulfill God's side of things. So that's just a lot of maybe different things of poverty mindset, tendencies, signs. There's probably a lot more that could be talked about, but at its core, we could say poverty mindset, it takes a powerless approach, has no vision for the future, and, generally takes on a victim mentality. So that's a poverty mindset. There is nothing good about any of that. The fruit of a poverty mindset creates death, in one way or the other, whether literally or just the fruit of it is death. And the things around you and your life, the things you put your hand to, it does not go well. So we don't want that. So let's just agree we don't want that. One quick example, because I have it on both sides here. We all have degrees of growth and such. So I still certainly have many things that I'm still growing in. But I can say from a number of years ago, I'll just give you this example. It was about 8 years ago, I think, maybe 9 years ago, let's say, that I had a job and I lost that job. Well, I got laid off temporarily, but it was kind of an open-ended thing and just perfectly fair because of the way the business was going. They just didn't need me for a period of time, and it got so slow that they just needed to let me go. And so for a few weeks, I was laid off from that job and then was trying to figure out what else to do. And, my wife was working. This was before we had kids. So it wasn't fun, to be faced with that kind of a thing. But basically, we were at least in a good life position. We didn't have kids to take care of. It was just us. So it was easier to handle in that way. But anyways, from that point, and it only took a couple weeks, business picked up and I did get some work back and started some other things. But so everything ended up fine. But basically, this was the start of what I was faced with. And I started trying to find other ways to make money, and to work some jobs kind of in a direction I was trying to go to leave my options open without going full in on a certain job that I would get locked in on and all this. I had these weird ideas. But so here's what happened. So I tried some stuff, tried getting some like side jobs and doing some things. Basically, the short of it is this: nothing worked. What I tried to build from that to not have to deal with the financial pain of that situation really was from a poverty mindset. I was just trying to escape. I was trying to just not be in a place that felt hard and kind of afraid. It was really a choices made from fear, and which is connected to a poverty mindset. So I was being active, so I wasn't being passive about it, but it was from a place of fear, which really was poverty mindset. Nothing worked. And then ultimately, every time I tried to go down certain paths of like, maybe I should try this, I should start putting my money into this. Like, let's just say investing. There was a time where I was trying to learn a little bit about investing, like, stocks, the stock market and all that. And back then, when I was trying to do that, I kind of got faced pretty quickly where the Lord said, no. He just said, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. So I stopped. And then the other things I was trying to do, I stopped. And really what it came down to is I was doing all of that from a place of fear and a poverty mindset. And so the Lord, of course, knew that, obviously, and he did not want me doing it. So I stopped. Now, a few years later, so look at what I'm doing now, I've actually been able to reconnect to some of that stuff and to start to learn some things and to put some things into practice. And the only difference is I am now, and of course, like I said, I'm still growing, but I am now in a place where I can think with a wealth mindset, where I'm trusting in God, where I'm partnering with him and what he's given me to do. And so now I'm in a completely different place. So some of the decisions are on the outside look the same, but the difference is what is in my heart. At one time, I was doing it from a place of poverty and fear, and now I'm doing it from a place of joy, and I mean this quite literally, from a place of joy, excitement, and just learning to grow and to build something with God. So all that to say is some of the decisions aren't actually, the details aren't the important part. It's actually what's in your heart that's the important part. But so poverty mindset. So now let's move on to wealth. I'll give you an example, a testimony that many of you have probably heard, but this is a perfect example of what a wealth mindset looks like in action. So I don't even know how many years ago this was, but well, maybe you haven't. So forgive me. Maybe you haven't. But the story of our church, Grace Christian Church, where my dad's the leader, he's the senior leader. So some years ago, bunch of years ago, at our old building, he was suddenly, and he could of course tell the story way better. I'm just giving you the very basic overview. God put on his heart to build a building because we were growing and we really felt like that it was time to get a space where we could increase in. So that's the short of it. There's more to it than that, but that's the short of it. So he basically pitched to the board and then the church that we're going to build a building. I believe this is what God's telling us to do. Now, at the time, what the money we had in our bank account to fulfill that vision was something like $600, maybe a little bit more, but basically right there, $600. And the project, let's just say, was in the millions, and $600 is not going to cut it. So why is that a wealth mindset? Because God gave my dad a vision and instruction to do something, to build something, to look to the future beyond what we had right then. And instead of taking into account what we currently had, which was very little, we chose to say yes, my dad, the leader, my dad chose to say yes to the vision God had given him. And instead of taking into account what we had currently, and so this is also a perfect example of faith, stepping out on what God said. But this is a wealth mindset. It is to look with vision to what God has said, to say yes to it, and to begin to build from that place. So this is a wealth mindset. A wealth mindset is this. Wealth looks at opportunity and possibility and does not get stuck on what is not or what you might lack. Instead of paying attention to any lack, a wealth mindset looks to, the possibility of it. A wealth mindset chooses to ask the question instead of saying like, no, we can't afford it. A wealth mindset says, or asks the question, how can we afford this? And chooses to make decisions from that place. A wealth mindset is a very powerful position. It is active. It chooses to partner. And in this case, spiritually speaking, a wealth mindset chooses to partner with God instead of passively waiting for something to happen. So a wealth mindset sees opportunity and sees possibility and always has hope. And this is one of the main things. And this is just Christianity 101, is we are a people filled with hope. So if we have any area of our life, and this right now, because this is our focus, is about finances and resources, if we don't have hope to build, hope to move forward with what we have, then we are not thinking from a wealth mindset. Deuteronomy 8:18. For the Lord your God remember that it is the Lord your God who has given you the power to get wealth, that he would establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers. He has given us the power to get wealth. So if he has given us the power, and then it is up to us to have a vision that instills hope. And it is up to us individually and then corporately to hold to a vision of hope and to make decisions from that place. You can either be in a place of fear or hope in this context, at least. So that's what a wealth mindset is. There's of course more details that could probably get put in, but a wealth mindset looks to build. It sees possibility and opportunity, even when you're faced with hard things, with hardships, trials, and the ups and downs of life. So, what does it look like for the church to operate from a wealth mindset? Perfect example of really what I believe God's will is for each of us would be in 3 John 2, which says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." So what does it look like for a church to operate from a wealth mindset? I believe these are a few main points I want to bring up. Again, there is certainly more that could be brought out in this, but I just have a few that we're going to hit. So first, what does it look like for a church to operate from a wealth mindset? Is that we are prospering, like truly prospering. So that means from a corporate level, that as like a church body, and then you could get into even regionally and then around the world, that the church itself is prospering. Because if you have a wealth mindset, you will inevitably move into prospering, even if you don't start there. And here's the thing. When it comes to this, there's the side of looking forward. So even if you don't have it yet, you can have a wealth mindset before you ever have an abundance of resources. But if you have a wealth mindset, you will eventually move into abundance and prospering. So that we are prospering truly. If the church has a wealth mindset, and then individually, if you have a wealth mindset, the sign of it, what it looks like is you will be prospering. And here's the thing. I could be wrong, but I don't believe provision just making it by, because we all have testimonies of God showing up and provision coming unexpectedly, which is wonderful. We should be thankful and grateful for that and not lose sight of those moments. That is a beautiful thing, and that God is that good and faithful that he shows up and doesn't let us, he takes care of us, let's say that. So it's not to make light of that or to belittle that at all, because that's an amazing thing. But I don't believe provision is the same as prospering. So we all can rejoice for the provision when it's there and when it shows up, when he shows up, but prospering looks different. We would see people increase, and this connects to the prospering, is that there's actual increase. This would look like finances. This would look like vision walked out. So it's one thing to have a dream. We need to start there to have a dream for something, and then a vision that follows, but actually the walking out and seeing the increase from that. So there are some of you that might have like business ideas and things that you've dreamt about, and it might not even be directly tied to making money, like, making a business to make money. It could be other things that just produce and make things increase in the world around you, that make life better for some people, or show forth beauty and, whatever. It could touch on all kinds of things, but that we would see increase. Because of the prospering, we would see the people increase. We already kind of said this, but that even in a time of hardship, we would see opportunity and not lose hope. So as a church, if we have a wealth mindset, that let's say we have a full-on economy crash and things are bad, worldly speaking. But if we have a wealth mindset, we would see an opportunity to build and make decisions with God that would even be counter to what the world is experiencing, and we would not lose hope. Another way of what it looks like for the church to operate from a wealth mindset is that in a place of trusting in God, which connects to not losing hope, that we're trusting in God, we would continue to move in powerful partnership. So just like the testimony of My dad saying yes when God gave him the vision we were going to build a building, even when in the natural it didn't look like that would be possible. If we have a wealth mindset, we will continually move forward with what God has said, with what he's shown us, with the dreams he's given you, whether individually or in the broader scheme of the community, that we would continually move forward in a place of powerful partnership. And then this is just intermixed with all of it. This is at the individual level. This is at the church level, even larger than that. You could think cities and regions. But that we would increase in generosity. That the church and its people would be the most abundantly and extravagantly and excellently generous people. And that's not just so, well, I'm not going to say it that way. That we would be crazy generous, that the world would experience us in such a way that they couldn't help but recognize the goodness of God, even if they don't have that language for it, because of the generosity and the way God's people don't lose hope and choose to build, even in a time of famine. So I think that about covers it on mindsets. Poverty mindset, wealth mindset. They are very different. They don't look or sound the same. They don't smell the same. And the fruit does not taste the same. Excuse me. So let's continue to grow in a wealth mindset. Let's be the most hopeful people on the planet. And let's be the people that think generationally, that build into the kingdom of heaven, his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. And so let's be those people. Like, there's nothing worth holding on to our old ways of thinking. There is nothing worth holding on to, even if it means getting extremely uncomfortable and even experiencing pain in the process, to hold on to something that produces death and does not partner with seeing Jesus receive the reward of his suffering ultimately. Because this isn't just about money or us having more things. It's not that at all. But the fact is it takes resources to build something, and we are here not just to do life and then die when we die. We're here to build. We're here to see his kingdom come and his will be done. And that touches every aspect of life. There shouldn't be a single detail of our life that doesn't show forth the glory of God. And that includes money, that includes our families, that includes everything. How we take care of ourselves even. Well, I could go on a whole nother trail, so I'm going to stop there until episode 6. So this was episode 5, Mindsets. We have one more after this, and I'll see you